The treaty hall was built for cameras, not truth. I walked in as a decorated envoy, and walked out as someone's companion under laws I didn't understand. Then 3 alien children stepped out from behind the dais and said my name like they'd been saving it. My dress uniform felt like armor until the doors sealed. A ring of crystalline pylons hummed, translating every breath into diplomatic language. Rows of human officers watched from the rear galleries, faces carefully neutral. Across the aisle, the Veylith delegation sat in tiers, tall, jointed silhouettes wrapped in formal ash-gray cloth, their eyes a deep sea glow. General Armand's voice crackled in my earbud. Captain Kade Rourke. Remember, you're here to sign, not to improvise. I hadn't improvised in 8 years, sir, I murmured without moving my lips. That's what worries me, he said. The Veylith don't do symbolism the way we do. No. They did it like blade work, precise, binding, and permanent. High Mediator SS Aaron rose, their throat frills opening like a fan. The translator rendered it as calm authority. Human envoy, you bring the vow of cessation. I do, I said, and the pylons caught my voice, polished it, and threw it across the hall. The Terran Coalition accepts the armistice terms and the neutral corridor. SS Aaron's eyes narrowed, an expression that in their culture could mean respect or preparation to strike. Then you accept our recompense. I blinked once. Recompense. General Armand's voice sharpened. Don't. SS Aaron lifted a slim tablet of obsidian metal. By the accord of shattered moons, when blood debts exceed the tally, the party that began the breach offers a companion bond to the harmed. A bond is not ownership, it is duty shared. Whispers moved through the human gallery. My stomach went cold. Our analysts never mention. I started. They did, Armand snapped. Page 500 of the cultural annex. You signed the briefing. I had signed 1,000 pages. I had buried friends under flags. I had learned to live on sleep fragments and guilt. I had not expected the treaty to reach into my life and claim it. SS Aaron's gaze fixed on me. Your fleet's first strike broke our cradle station. You call it an accident. We call it a scar that raises 3 children without their protector. The air changed. The Veylith tears leaned forward. You're saying... I forced the words out. You're saying the reparations are a person, not a person, SS Aaron corrected gently. A bond, a companion. A smaller figure stepped into the center aisle from behind the dais, escorted by 2 ceremonial guards. She was Veylith, but not like the towering diplomats. Shorter. Younger. Her cloth was plain. Her hands were bare. Her eyes met mine and held. No challenge. No submission. Just a quiet, braced readiness that made my chest hurt. The translator caught her voice and softened it into human consonants. My name is Lear. I didn't answer fast enough. Words failed me the way they had the day I watched my squad's evac shuttle burn. Lear's jaw flexed. I am... She hesitated as if choosing a term that wouldn't turn into a cage. I am appointed to you. The bond is called companioning. It is not a collar. A child's voice piped up behind her, sharp with daring. It's not a collar, Kade. I turned. 3 Veylith children stood in a line, half hidden behind the dais edge. 2 were smaller, their frills still soft at the margins. The oldest, maybe 10 by human standards, stood like a tiny soldier with a cracked pride too big for their body. My name hit me again, this time like a punch. The oldest took 1 step forward. You came. You said you would. I never said. I began, then swallowed. The words sounded cruel even before they left my mouth. Lear's eyes flicked to the children, then back to me. They have watched your broadcasts. Your speeches. The times you begged your commanders to stop the corridor bombardments. I begged because it was wrong, I said, voice low. Not because I planned to... To what? The oldest child cut in. To be here? To see us? General Armand hissed. Kade, keep it diplomatic. Diplomatic. In a room where my life was being rewritten as payment. SS Aaron's voice carried. Captain Rourke, do you accept the companion bond as sworn recompense to fulfill duty, to share protection? I could feel every eye. I could feel the weight of the dead behind me, their names etched into my ribs. Lear's hands tightened at her sides. She wasn't smiling. She looked like someone stepping into a storm because the storm was already here. Quietly, she said, if you refuse, the armistice stands. But my children and I will be reassigned to a warhouse. They will be raised as instruments. You will sign peace and walk away. and they will learn that humans only stop killing when there is paper. The oldest child's voice shook despite their posture. We don't want to be instruments. I heard myself breathe. In, tie, out, dot, in, out. That's it. My life had been a sequence of orders and outcomes. The war had taught me to keep distance because distance was how you survived. Yet the children's eyes were not weapons. They were wounds. I turned my head slightly so my earbud would catch less. General, I muttered. If I accept, does it bind the coalition? Armand's pause was a blade edge. No, Yoon. It binds you. I'm not sure that's better, Captain, Armand said, voice quieter now. You spent 2 tours asking why we keep making the next generation pay. If there's a way to stop it, don't make me order you to walk away. I looked at Lear. Her voice was almost soundless. Say it with clarity. In my culture, half acceptance becomes half cruelty. The room held its breath. I stepped forward, boots echoing. I stopped an arm's length from her, close enough to see the faint scars along her wrist ridges, old restraint marks. I don't know your laws, I said, speaking to her, not the pylons. But I know what it costs to raise children under threat. I know what it costs to live as a debt. Lear didn't flinch. Then speak. I turned to Sarin, then back to Lear. Because it mattered. I accept the companion bond, I said. Not as ownership. Not as a trophy. As duty shared. As protection. As... My throat tightened. As the start of something we're going to have to build carefully. SS Aaron's frills relaxed. Witnessed. The oldest child exhaled like they'd been holding their breath for years. The smallest one edged closer to Lear and tucked a hand into her cloth. Lear's eyes shone, not with softness, but with something harder, relief tempered by fear. She lifted her hand, palm open, showing a thin band of dark metal wrapped around her wrist. This is the bond mark. It will not tighten. It will not shock. It records consent and duty. And if I break it? I asked. Her voice went steady. Then you will have broken peace, with more than words. The smallest child peered at my medals. Do you fight monsters, Kade? I swallowed. I fought people. The oldest child tilted their head. Will you fight for us? General Armand's voice returned, resigned. Captain Rourke, you just became the most complicated clause in this treaty. I stared down at the 3 children. They stared back up like I was a story that had stepped off a screen. I don't know how to be what you think I am, I said. Lear answered for them. Then be what you are, and learn. We were supposed to leave the treaty world in 6 hours. Instead, alarms screamed 3 minutes after we docked at the Terran embassy node, and the peace corridor filled with a ship that didn't want peace. I met Lear and the children in the transit bay, where my Marines had formed an awkward, uncertain semicircle around them. Sergeant Veyl's eyes flicked over the kids, then to me. Sir, I'm going to say this carefully. Try, I said. He gestured with his chin. Are we adopting the enemy? The oldest child straightened. We are not the enemy. Veyl's eyebrows rose. Okay. That's fair. Lear stepped forward with a controlled calm that didn't quite hide the tension in her shoulders. Your soldiers fear dishonor. Mine fear abandonment. We will all need practice. That earned her a few surprised looks. Corporal Jin crouched slightly to meet the smallest child's height. Hey, kiddo. I'm Jin. You like, space snacks? The smallest child blinked, then spoke through the translator on a small pendant. I like the crunchy rings. Jin grinned. We have crunchy rings. Lear's gaze remained on me. Your people will hate this. They'll fear it, I corrected. Fear comes first. Hate comes when fear finds a story. The oldest child, Rin, I'd learned his name, snorted. Then give them a better story. Before I could answer, my wrist display lit with an emergency ping. Unidentified craft in the neutral corridor. Armed. Fast. Deal. No. Coalition transponder. General Armand's face appeared in the hologram, hard and tired. Kade. The Shard Raiders just jumped the corridor. They don't care about treaties. They want leverage. They're already broadcasting demands. What demands? I asked. Armand's jaw tightened. They want the Veylith children. Specifically. Rin's frills flared. Of course they do. Lear went still. They know. They always know. I said, voice flat. I'd fought raiders before the war. Peace just gave them new hunting grounds. Armand's tone sharpened. Your escort frigate is 2 hours out. Embassy security can hold the node for maybe 20 minutes. Kade, you're the senior combat officer on site. Do what you do. I looked at Lear. Stay inside. Lock down. No windows. No comms. Lear's eyes narrowed. You speak as if I am cargo. I speak as if someone wants to take your children, I shot back. Then I forced myself to breathe. I'm sorry. I'm not good at this. Rin stepped closer, chin up. Good at what? At not getting attached. At not caring. At not letting children see fear in your eyes. Good at being gentle, I said. Lear's voice softened by a fraction. Then practice now. She reached into her cloth and pulled out a thin disc of etched glass metal. This is our emergency seal. Veylith escorts use it to coordinate in silence. It binds to a commander's signature. I'm not Veylith, I said. You are companion bonded, she replied. That gives you standing in our emergency law. Take it. I hesitated. Duty was familiar. Authority with alien consequences was not. Lear pushed it into my palm. Her fingers brushed my skin. Cool, steady. Do not try to protect us by excluding us. I'm trying to protect you by keeping you alive. And I am trying to keep you from becoming alone again, she said quietly, as if she'd seen the shape of my loneliness under my medals. The smallest child tugged my sleeve. Kade? I looked down. Do you have a plan? The child asked. I'd always had plans. They were how you survived. But plans were maps, and this was new territory. Yes. I lied smoothly, then amended. I have the start of one. I turned to Sergeant Vale. Lock the embassy node. Establish firing lanes. Non-lethal first. These raiders might have hostages. Vale nodded, relief in the familiar. Yes, sir. Rin's voice cut in. Non-lethal is foolish. I looked at him. Non-lethal is restraint. Restraint gets you dead, Rin said, too old for his age. It got my first guardian dead. Silence spread like oil. Lear's hands tightened. Rin took. Rin's eyes stayed on me. You said you fought people. People who wanted you dead. Did you restrain them? I crouched until I was at his level. Sometimes. When I could. Not because they deserved it, but because I wanted to come back as someone I could live with. He stared, searching for weakness. What do you want? I asked him. Revenge or safety? His frills trembled. Safety. Then let me do it my way, I said. And if I fail, you can say you were right. He considered. Then, grudgingly, fine. Lear watched this exchange like it was a test she hadn't named. The alarms shifted tone. External breach. Attempt. The node's outer ring shuddered. A raider's voice boomed through the embassy's public speakers, translated into harsh clarity. Deliver the 3 Veylith juveniles. Deliver the bonded companion. Or we cut your corridor open and let the war begin again. Vale muttered. They're really leaning into subtlety. I keyed the comm. This is Captain Kade Rourke, Terran Coalition. You are in violation of the Armistice Corridor. The raider laughed. We don't recognize your paper piece. We recognize payment. Send them out. Lear stepped beside me, close enough that my marines stiffened. Her voice went through the comm, steady and cold. You will not have my children. The raider's laugh turned sharp. Then you will watch them taken. Rin's hand slipped into Lyre's cloth, tight. The smallest child pressed against her hip. I stared at the corridor map. Their boarding vectors were predictable. Their arrogance wasn't. I turned to Vale. We're going to make them think we're afraid. Vale blinked. Seer. I nodded toward Lyre. We are afraid. We just won't let it make us stupid. I looked at Lear. Can your seal coordinate with the Veylith guard outside? Yes, she said. If you trust me with access. Trust. The word was a grenade. Do it, I said. Lear placed the disc against my wrist display. It flared once, then sensed. Lines of Veylith script flowed over my HUD like water. Your laws are noisy, she murmured. Ours are threaded. I exhaled. Then, thread us a way out. She began issuing silent commands, fingers moving with precise gestures. Outside, Veylith peacekeepers shifted into positions I wouldn't have anticipated, angles that looked like ceremonial posture, until you recognized the kill zones. My marines watched, wary, then impressed. Jin whispered. She's good. She's been surviving longer than she should have had to, I replied. The raiders breached the outer ring. Positions! Vale barked. The first raider came through the airlock laughing, then stopped dead when the corridor lights dropped, and the embassy's internal shutters snapped into place. I spoke into the darkness. Last chance. Leave. The raiders spat. Take them. Then the corridor exploded into motion. Non-lethal rounds, stun nets, Veylith sonic disorienters, timed perfectly with our flashes. The raiders stumbled like drunks. Rin's voice rose behind me, fierce and thin. You said you had a plan. I said I had the start of one. I snapped back, then caught myself. Stay behind me. Lear's hand touched my arm, light and anchoring. You're shaking. I'm fine, I lied. She leaned closer, voice for my ears only. You do not have to be fine. You only have to stay. I swallowed, tightened my grip on my rifle and stayed. They came in waves. Not because they were brave, but because they were desperate, because someone had promised them a reward big enough to buy a fleet. We held the node for 17 minutes. Then a second ship dropped out of the corridor shadow, broadcasting Veylith registry codes that were just convincing enough to make half the station hesitate. Lear's eyes narrowed at the feed. Those codes are dead. Meaning? Vale asked. Meaning someone stole them, Lear said. Or someone with access is working with them. The room chilled. General Arman came back on comms, voice tense. Kade, your frigate is still 90 minutes out. We intercepted chatter. The raiders have an inside link. Someone in the corridor authority. Or someone who wants the treaty to fail, I said. Arman's silence confirmed it. A new transmission cut through, clear, formal, and utterly wrong. Captain Rourke, stand down. Transfer the Veylith wards to corridor security for protective custody. The signature tag flashed. Coalition Office of Peace Enforcement. Vale looked at me. That's official. Lear's voice was sharp as glass. Protective custody is a cage with polite words. Rin's eyes blazed. I told you. People want instruments. I stared at the signature authentication. It was perfect. Too perfect. I keyed my comm. Careful. Office of Peace Enforcement. Identify command phrase, Delta Black. A pause. Just long enough. Then, proceed with transfer, Captain. No phrase. No recognition. A fake. I looked at Lear. They're coming from inside and outside. Lear's jaw tightened. Then we move. Move where? Vale asked. There's nowhere to go. I glanced at the maintenance schematics. The treaty node had an old hull spine. Pre-war construction. Thick, ugly, forgotten. A place cameras didn't like. There? I said, pointing. Spine corridor. Old service route to the emergency shuttle cradle. Vale's eyes widened. Sir, that area's not secure. Neither is here, I said. Pack up. We're walking. Jin crouched beside the youngest child. Hey, Crunchy Ring lover. You gotta stay quiet, okay? The child nodded solemnly. I can be quiet like a shadow. Rin scoffed. Shadows have teeth. Lear's gaze snapped to Rin. Not now. Rin's chin lifted. Always now. I stepped between them, voice low. Rin, listen to me. He looked up, defiant. I know you think the only way to keep your family safe is to become dangerous, I said. But you already are dangerous. Your anger will cut you. Don't let it. His frills trembled. You don't know what it feels like. I almost laughed, bitter. Kid. I've watched my friends die because I hesitated. I've watched my hands shake while I pretended they didn't. I know exactly what it feels like. Rin stared, and for a moment he looked like a child again. Then, why are you helping us? Because when I looked at you, I saw every survivor we left behind. I didn't say that. I said something simpler. Because I said I would. Lear's eyes flicked to me. Surprise, then something like understanding. We moved into the service corridors. The spine smelled of old coolant and dust. The lights were dim, yellowed. My marines spread out, boots soft. Behind us, the embassy node shook as someone cut power to sections, forcing us into darkness. Vale whispered, They're hurting us. Let them, I replied. Herds have traps. Lear walked beside me, her cloth brushing my sleeve. In my culture, she said quietly, companioning began as war practice. A bond between a commander and the one who carried the commander's children when the commander fell. I glanced at her. You're telling me this now? You need to know what they will claim, she said. They will claim you are now the carrier, the replacement guardian. I'm not their father, I said too fast. Lear's eyes softened, not accusing. No, Dara. You are something else. A chosen duty. That is why the raiders want you too. A bond has value. Rin cut in from behind. A bond has power. I stopped, turned. Rin, you keep saying that like you want to use it. He held my gaze. Why shouldn't I? Because power without control turns into the same thing you hate, I said. He opened his mouth. Then the corridor ahead rang with a metallic clack. A hatch slid open. Figures dropped down, raiders in patchwork armor, weapons raised. Veylith swore. Contact! We fired stun rounds first. 2 raiders went down, twitching. A third raider tossed a pulse grenade. The corridor flashed, systems whining. My HUD flickered. My hearing narrowed. In the strobing light, I saw Lear pulled back by a raider with a hooked cable. Rin screamed. Not words, pure sound. I lunged. The raider yanked harder, dragging Lear toward the hatch. Lear's voice came through the chaos, strained but clear. Kade, don't chase. Protect the children. I can do both, I snapped, even as I knew I couldn't. The smallest child grabbed my leg. Kade! Don't leave. And there it was. The impossible calculus. War had taught me to choose the mission over the person. Peace was asking me to choose the person as the mission. Veylith shouted, Sir! More on the flank. I saw 4 raiders pushing in, trying to split us. I made the decision my body knew before my mind did. Jin, take the kids down the spine. Veylith, cover them, I ordered. I'm going after Lear. Veylith hesitated. Sir, that's an order, I barked. Lear's eyes met mine as she was dragged backward. Even in fear, she looked furious. Not at the raider, but at my choice. Her voice cut through. Kade, if you die for me, the bond becomes tragedy, not peace. I ran anyway. I grabbed the cable with my left hand and fired my sidearm with my right, non-lethal. The raider jerked, collapsed. I yanked Lear free, pulled her to me, and we stumbled into a side alcove as another raider's shot sparked against the wall. Lear's breath came fast. You disobeyed your own doctrine. I changed doctrine, I said, panting. Her eyes widened slightly. For me. For us, I corrected, the word surprising me as it left my mouth. We moved, low, fast, back toward the spine route, but the corridor behind us had shifted. The node's emergency bulkheads were closing. Someone was sealing the spine to trap us. Lear's voice went cold. They are forcing separation. A comm ping came, arm in again. Urgent. Kade, we have confirmation. Someone inside Coalition Enforcement is coordinating the raiders. They're trying to seize the bonded party and present it as protective custody to keep the treaty hostage. So the treaty is a leash, I said. Yes, Armand replied. And you're the handle. Lear heard it, even without my comm. They want to show my people that humans cannot keep peace without taking. I looked at her, rage and clarity mixing. Then we don't give them that story. A new sound echoed. Children's footsteps running back toward us. No, I hissed. And then Rin was there, frills flared, eyes blazing. You left, he said, voice breaking. You said you wouldn't abandon us. I didn't, I said sharply. You disobeyed. He stepped closer, trembling. You said you would fight for us. I swallowed. I am. He pointed down the corridor, toward the ceiling bulkheads. Then fight for all of us, together. Lear stared at Rin, then at me. Her voice softened. This is what I meant. Not ownership. Together. Behind Rin, the smallest child held Jin's hand, eyes wide with fear. Jin looked at me like he wanted permission to breathe. Veylith's voice came through the comm channel, strained. Sir, we're getting boxed in. I looked at the closing bulkheads. There was one option left. An old maintenance hatch into the external truss, open to vacuum, except for a thin emergency field. It was dangerous. Cold. Exposed. It was also free. I met Lear's gaze. Can your people survive a field walk? Lear nodded once. Yes, if we move fast, if we stay linked. Rin's voice was fierce. Linked how? Lear lifted the bond disc. By the bond. I shook my head. No mystical shortcuts. Lear's eyes flashed. Not mystical, practical. The bond includes emergency biosynchronization, shared heat, shared stabilization in hostile environments. It was made for war. I stared at her. And you didn't tell me. You were not ready to hear it, she said. You thought bond meant chain. It means bridge. The bulkhead clanged almost shut. Veylith shouted, now or never. I took a breath that tasted like metal and dust. Everyone on me, hands on shoulders, no one breaks the line. Rin stepped in first, pressing his small hand against my sleeve. I won't. The smallest child squeezed in behind him. I can be a shadow with teeth, the child whispered. Jin muttered. That's adorable and terrifying. Lear slid in beside me, close, steady. Captain, she said softly, if we survive this, you will need to choose what the bond means. I'll choose, I said, and meant it. We hit the hatch and stepped into the emergency field, cold biting, stars too close, and the weight of peace resting on a line of hands. The outside of the treaty node was silent in a way war never allowed. No gunfire. No shouting. Only the thin hiss of emergency fields and the distant hum of engines. Someone maneuvering a ship into position to intercept us. We moved along the truss like a living chain. My breath fogged inside my helmet. The children's smaller suits pulsed with heat from the bond disk, a faint glow traveling through the line when someone stumbled. Rin looked back at me, voice tight. If we fall, do we die? Not if I can help it, I said. That's not an answer, he snapped. I didn't sugarcoat. If the field collapses, yes. He nodded once, as if accepting a fact of weather. Then don't let it collapse. Lear's voice came through her suit calm despite the tremor in it. He will not let it collapse. How do you know? Rin demanded. Lear's gaze stayed forward. Because he has already been collapsing for years, and he is still walking. The words hit harder than the cold. We reached a junction where the truss widened. An access platform. A ship hovered nearby, lights off, a shadow with thrusters. A voice came over external comms, human, crisp, official. Captain Rourke. You are ordered to surrender the bonded Veylith party to Coalition peace enforcement. I recognized the cadence, Commander Halden. I'd served under him on the third ring. He'd always smiled while signing casualty reports. I keyed my comm. Halden, you don't have authority out here. On the contrary, Halden said. You are now a treaty asset. You belong to the corridor's stability. Come quietly. Rin hissed. He speaks like a slaver. Lear's voice was cold. He speaks like someone who mistakes peace for possession. Halden continued, voice smooth. Captain, you know how this works. We take custody, we present it to the Veylith as cooperation, and we keep the raiders from using them. Everyone wins. Everyone except the children, I said. Halden sighed, as if I were being difficult in a meeting. Children are symbols. Symbols keep wars from reigniting. I felt my hands tighten. Children are not symbols. They are if you want your friends' deaths to mean something, Halden replied. That line, friend deaths as leverage, lit something inside me that had been smoldering since the war ended. I took a slow breath. Halden, stand down. The raiders are your partners, and you're about to get people killed for politics. A pause. Then Halden's voice hardened. Your compassion makes you unreliable, Captain. That's why you were chosen. The Veylith trust you. You'll bring them in. Behind me, Jin whispered. Sir, we're outgunned. Vale added. Frigates still 30 minutes minimum? Lear spoke softly. Kade. This is the final crisis. Your people's hierarchy will demand sacrifice. I looked at her. And your culture? Our culture demands reciprocity, she said. If you carry us, we carry you. Rin's voice broke, raw. I don't want another guardian to die. I turned slightly so he could see my faceplate. Rin, listen to me. He stared, trembling. I'm not going to die for you as a gesture, I said. I'm going to live for you as a choice. His frills quivered. How? I looked at Halden's ship. It was close enough to board the platform. Close enough to grab us if we stepped forward. But it was also close enough to be seen by the treaty cameras, if I turned the cameras on. My wrist display still carried the Veylith seal. Threaded, Lear had called it. I opened a channel through the bond disk. An emergency broadcast route that bypassed Coalition enforcement relays. Halden's voice snapped. Captain, last warning. I smiled without humor. No, last warning is mine. I hit transmit. Every camera on the treaty node snapped to life. External, internal, ceremonial, pushing a live feed directly to Veylith diplomatic channels and Coalition public oversight. The platform lit up with harsh spotlights as the system engaged, recording everything. Halden swore. What did you do? I gave them a better story, I said, echoing Rin's words. Lear's eyes widened. You are exposing your own command. I'm done letting command hide behind me, I replied. Halden's ship shifted. Too late. Now that eyes were on him. A raider skiff emerged from the shadow corridor, moving fast. Halden's backup, revealed by the lights. On the public feed, the skiff's patched hull and outlaw markings were unmistakable. Holden barked into his comms. "Abort! Pull back!" The skiff didn't. It was committed. Vale shouted, "Incoming!" I shoved the children down behind the platform's low barrier and threw myself over them, shielding with my body and suit plating. The skiff fired, searing arcs that slammed into the platform, cracking metal, screaming heat. My suit alarms flared. Pain lanced through my side where a fragment hit. Lear grabbed my arm, voice sharp. "Kade, you are bleeding." "Still alive," I grunted. Rin's voice trembled. Stop doing that." "I told you," I said, breath tight. "Not a gesture, a choice." Halden's ship fired at the skiff now, trying to erase evidence. But the cameras caught it. Coalition enforcement firing alongside raiders, then against them when exposed. The skiff spiraled, damaged, but it had one last move. It surged toward us, engines screaming, aiming to ram the platform and knock us into vacuum. Jin shouted, "Sir!" I stood, pain screaming. My mind ran through angles, mass, thrust, old combat math. The bond disc pulsed on my wrist, warmth traveling through our linked line like a heartbeat. Lear stepped beside me, shoulder to shoulder. "You do not stand alone." "I didn't ask you to," I began. "You did," she said. "When you accepted." Rin rose too, shaking but upright. "If you fall, we fall with you." I looked at him, startled. "That's not what I want. That's what together means," he said, voice breaking. "You said it." The smallest child peeked up. "Shadow with teeth," the child whispered. I exhaled, and the exhaustion of years cracked open into something else. Something fierce and protective and stubbornly tender. "Okay," I said. "Together." I switched my rifle to magnetic tether mode, fired a line into the incoming skiff's forward strut. The tether latched. The skiff yanked, trying to rip it free. I anchored the tether to the platform's emergency moorings, then nodded to Lear. "Your seal. Can it increase field strength in a pulse?" "Yes," she said instantly. "But it will drain the emergency reserves." "Do it," I said. Lear pressed the disc to the platform controls. Veylith's script flowed. The emergency field thickened for a heartbeat, turning the vacuum edge into a resistant wall. The skiff slammed the boundary and shuddered, slowed, just enough. Vale roared, "Now!" My Marines fired concentrated bursts into the skiff's engines. It veered, scraped the platform, and tumbled away into the corridor darkness, leaving only spinning debris and fading heat. Silence returned, thin, trembling, alive. Halden's ship hovered, frozen. On every public channel, his betrayal was now a recorded fact. A new voice cut through comms. General Armin, hoarse. "Kade, oversight is broadcasting your feed across Coalition space. Enforcement is being ordered to stand down. Frigate incoming in 12 minutes. Halden's voice was small now. "Captain, you just ruined your career." I stared at the stars. "My career died on my second tour. I've been borrowing time since." Lear's hand found mine, her fingers steady. "Then borrow it for living." Rin's voice cracked. "Are we safe?" I knelt, ignoring the pain, and looked him in the eye through our faceplates. "We're safer," I said. "And we're not going back to being instruments." He swallowed. "What are we then?" The question hung, more terrifying than any weapon. I looked at Lear, at the children, at the bond disc still glowing on my wrist. I'd come to sign peace as a soldier. I was leaving as something else, something the treaty hadn't been able to define properly. "I was sent to sign a peace treaty," I said softly, words catching. "And I came back with a wife and 3 alien kids." Rin blinked. "Wife?" Lear's eyes widened, then softened with an emotion that was almost a smile but not quite, relief with edges. "In your language," she said carefully, "wife means chosen partner. Equal, not prize." "That's what I mean," I said, voice rough. "Chosen, equal." The smallest child tilted their head. "Does that mean we get crunchy rings forever?" Jin let out a shaky laugh. "Kid, you're getting crunchy rings for life." Vale exhaled hard. "Sir, are you okay?" I looked at my Marines, at their uncertain faces. "Not okay," I admitted. "But I'm here." Lear leaned closer, voice quiet enough to feel like a vow. "Companioning is not a chain, Kade. It is a promise to return." I closed my eyes for a second, letting the cold and pain and fear settle into something steadier. "Then I'm returning," I said. "All the way." And for the first time since the war, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt like space being made for a family that shouldn't have existed. except that we chose it anyway.